Have you ever been in a situation where you were thrown into a project or put in a position or thrown at this security incident with completely new TTPs which you never worked on and it was way out of your comfort zone? Or have you ever been asked to present to executive leadership or board of directors and you felt that you are going to rock that presentation and you worked really hard on it? But as it got closer and closer, you started to feel nervous and you thought to yourself, I am not worthy. I can see some heads nodding in there, and I have been there many times myself. Today we are going to be talking about this topic which is very sensitive for many of us and we feel uncomfortable talking about it. So let's start by taking a few deep breaths in and a few breaths out at a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Take a deep breath in and out. And out. Let me start by sharing a story with you. I used to mentor someone many years ago. Her name was Angela. She had just changed her career into cybersecurity after having worked for a forensic psychologist for 15 years. In her new role as a cybersecurity analyst, she felt totally out of place because she was working amongst the experts who had years of experience in information security. She worked really hard and strived to catch up with her colleagues. She still could not feel confident enough and she wouldn't even speak up in meetings. One day, her team asked her to work on this highly sensitive cybercrime case which they were working on, where FBI and local law enforcement were also involved, and she was asked to analyze a computer of a major suspect. It freaked her out. She thought that this was it. They were going to catch her as an imposter and that she was at the brink of losing her job. I asked her to breathe and calm down and focus. And that's what she did. As she started looking at the data, she realized that her prior experience actually helped her in identifying key behavioral patterns and psychological tendencies to identify key pieces of evidence in this case. And her team was also amazed what she brought to the table. And they gave her a pat at her back. But she was stunned. She thought to herself, how can this be happening? Can't they see that I'm just an imposter? But as she reflected, she realized that she had worked so hard that she really deserved this win. Doesn't that sound familiar to many of you? Haven't we been into Angela's shoes many times? Here we are today to talk about imposter syndrome, where the word syndrome makes it sound like it's a horrible disease, but it's a common feeling that many of us feel many times in our life, where we think and we feel that it is by luck or by chance that we are where we are, totally discrediting all the experience and the hard work we have put in to get there where we are today. So it all started in 1972 when a book was published for the first time regarding the challenges which women go through in breaking through the barriers to get up in the chain. Then in 1978 was for the first time this term imposter syndrome was coined for women who were working in male-dominated fields and they were having a feeling of self-doubt. In 1985, it was recognized that it isn't only women It actually impacted all genders and all professions. In the 2000s, it was recognized as a systemic issue, but the organizations put all of the blame on the individuals for having that self-doubt and lack of confidence. In 2018 was for the first time Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day was observed. Whenever we have imposter syndrome, we think that it is only us. But guess what? Everybody around us is also thinking the same way. It impacts 3 in 5 employees, which is 58% of the people who are working around us. They are all impacted by us. Yes, it does impact women more. And that's because since our childhoods, we are taught to prioritize others' needs more than our own. And on top of that, we face stereotypes and discrimination in male-dominated fields like IT and information security. There are many who never even recognize that they have imposter syndrome, but those who recognize that they have imposter syndrome, they wouldn't even share with their employers with a fear of embarrassment or not being taken seriously or being seen as less competent. Some organizations have started recognizing that this is a systemic problem and they have started working on it. But they also need to understand that it takes 21 days to form a habit and 42 days to change a behavior. So with just 1 hour of training or 1 day of training, it's not going to work. So we need to build a culture which is more inclusive and helping those individuals who have imposter syndrome. There are 5 main types of imposter syndromes. The first one is the perfectionist, who puts in hours and hours into whatever they are working on and still don't feel confident enough about their work. Then there is an expert who is always wanting to learn more and more, but still feels like a total fake. There is a natural genius who sets high goals for themselves, but when they don't achieve them, they feel like a total failure. Then there is a superhero who wants to rescue all of us, and they also want to prove themselves, and they take so much on their plate that they get burnt out. And there is the individualist who wants to do everything themselves and wouldn't ask for help even if they needed it. Take a moment to reflect, which imposter syndrome do you have? Let me share which one has struck me hard is the expert one, because we all work in information security, and for a long time I thought that I need to be expert in all the different domains. It's not black and white whether you have it or not. Instead, it falls into a spectrum. It depends on how intense that feeling is and how often are you getting it and what is the impact of it on your personal and your professional life. So for example, if you feel it every few weeks, but it doesn't affect your work or your personal life, then you have moderate level of imposter syndrome. You can manage it by accepting self-doubt as normal, focusing on your key strengths, and embracing those challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. If you feel it multiple times in a week that impacts your work and your personal life, then maybe you have major level of imposter syndrome. Seek support from specialized therapists who can actually challenge that negative doubt you have in your head and convert it into a positive boost and also boost your self-esteem at the same time. But then there are some who persistently have this feeling, which is significantly impacting their life, to a degree that they don't even want to get out of the bed. They don't even want to take a shower. They don't even want to maybe come to RSA with a thought that maybe they might get caught as an imposter. In those scenarios, you do need mental health care's help. Make sure that you reach out for that help. Wherever you are in this spectrum, remember that there are plenty of resources which are available in your organization or through focus groups as well as online as well, and reach out for that help. Recognizing that you need help is a strength itself. Can you even believe it? Beyoncé, who is such a successful singer and a great performer, has been dealing with imposter syndrome since her childhood. She actually has a stage fear. I never knew that she would have a stage fear. She uses a technique called character invention to help her get on the stage. She has created this persona for herself, an imaginary one. It's called Sasha Fierce, where Beyoncé is scared of getting on the stage. Sasha loves to get on the stage. When Beyoncé imagines herself as Sasha, she becomes a brave, audacious, and fearless performer on stage. If these most accomplished people can deal with imposter syndrome, we are not alone. So stories do matter. As we all know that we learn the best from stories. You must be thinking, who is she standing on the stage talking about this more sensitive topic? My name is Reet Kaur, and I'm the Chief Information Security Officer of one of the largest higher ed institutes in Oregon called Portland Community College. And don't go with the name. Sometimes when people think it's a community college, they might think it's something small. We serve more than 75,000 students and 6,000 employees. Today, I would like to share the struggle I have had for many years with imposter syndrome, and the lessons I have learned and the framework I have developed for myself to combat imposter syndrome. Like many in information security, I do not come from cybersecurity or even computer background. After having worked in finance and IT for many years, I transitioned into cybersecurity. And let me be honest, that transition was hard. It was rough for me because I ran into many gatekeepers. Those same gatekeepers who keep on rambling and complaining about the talent gap that we deal with at a global level, 3 million open jobs at a global level. Those same gatekeepers who think they are experts, they are special, as they have the skills to be successful in this field, forgetting that there was somebody else who opened that door for them as well, and that they have developed these skills over time. These gatekeepers triggered that imposter syndrome in me. But now that when I look back, I think that maybe it's because I was being seen as the biggest APT for them, advanced persistent threat, because I was advancing through learning, persistently gaining that experience, and maybe was being seen as a threat for I don't know what. But in spite of all the learning, all the certifications I was getting, all the experience I was getting, I was still feeling like a total fake. Then I led various governance risk compliance programs at Nike for 8 years. One of the most successful programs was to develop an internal risk management program which received such high recognition that I was given an opportunity to take my team to Southeast Asia to develop this program for Nike's entire supply chain, starting from suppliers, manufacturers, distribution centers, and so on. But guess what? In spite of gaining all these years of experience at Nike, whenever I was ready for growth, I would only look for lateral moves. I was lowballing myself. I would never even apply for higher level roles. But I'm not alone. There are studies which prove that people with imposter syndrome, especially women, when they don't meet 90% of the criteria in the job description, they would never even consider applying. So I never applied for any higher level jobs. But one day, I got an email thanking me for applying for a CISO role, Chief Information Security Officer. But wait a minute, I did not even apply. And guess what? Somebody else who saw my worth more than I did, one of my mentors at Nike, he applied it on my behalf. And let me be honest, instead of being grateful, I was actually scared because it was a two-step level up than me. I initially thought that it's a joke, but it wasn't a joke. I was selected amongst 17 finalists who were going to be interviewed for this role. I went through all the panel interviews, and finally I got the job. I cleared every panel and finally got the offer. But then I heard this knock. Knock, knock, your imposter syndrome. I was not ready, it said. Not ready to be a CISO. But one of my friends said something to me which totally changed the course of my life and my career. And she said to me, you will never be fully ready until you become one. You will never be ready until you put on those shoes of a, whether it is vulnerability management analyst, whether it is researcher, threat researcher, whether it is reverse malware engineer. You will never get there until you do that job. So I went for it. As you can tell, my first CISO role started with a fear of the unknown, but I was determined to be successful. During my first week at the job, one of my peers would come sit in my office every single day and tell me how they were equally qualified for this job, but there was a reason why they didn't apply for this job, because the security of the organization was so bad. And they told me that now, since you are accountable for this position and since you have the legal liability, you will go to jail. And let me tell you, I had several sleepless nights. And I thought to myself, what the hell, sorry about my language, what have I gotten myself into? And one of those sleepless nights, I just woke up, I couldn't sleep, so I went on Google and I checked, has there been any CISO who has gone to jail? This was 3 years ago, right? 3.5 years ago. And there was none. So I decided to calm these negative noises being created by external factors and told myself I need to focus on what I came here to do, which was to build an information security program. Now that those negative voices were calmed down, I was ready to focus. But guess what? Destiny had something else in play. We all got hit with COVID just 1 week after my job. And for the next several months in this COVID era, it felt as if I was drinking from the fire hose. As I had to understand the business, I had to build relationships across with all stakeholders. I had to build my team from ground zero up, all being remote, and I had to do a high-level assessment to develop and implement the strategy to reduce risk within the risk appetite of the organization and operationalize it, and so much more. But I was lucky enough to hire an awesome and hardworking team and to have a great partnership with my boss, who is the CIO, who was a great cheerleader for me and the program that we were building. In 3 years, we brought a risk-based information security program to life. We had increased the capability maturity of the organization from a 0 and a 1 in many areas to a 3.2, and in some areas even a 4, with all of our hard work, which everybody put in. And the team was celebrating their successes. But one day, I got an invite for an urgent in-person skip-level meeting with my president. There was a knock again, and it said, "Oh my God, there have been so many layoffs which are going around us right now. Microsoft, Twitter, Salesforce, are you getting laid off? Or are they going to ask you to lay off some of the members of your team who you worked so hard to bring on your team?" And all these negative voices in my head, they were all lies, as instead I was getting promoted. It was recognized that due to the hard work we had put into building this program, we were successful at showing our value add-on and that security is a business risk. I was no longer going to be reporting into the CIO. I was actually going to be reporting directly into the president, and not just that, I was also going to be the member of executive management team, the cabinet, who takes the key decisions for the organization. Well, now that I'm up here, when somebody has moved the cheese for me, where I'm dealing with this huge change, there are new challenges I have to deal with. I have new peers. I have to learn how to work with them. When I changed my career from finance to IT and information security, I went through a huge learning curve at that time. And now that CFO and the CIO and CPO were my new peers, I had to again relearn some of the finance, which I had undone. Or maybe at a new level now I had to learn. So today, I have to tell you that now there are many lessons which I have learned, that I'm able to deal with this imposter syndrome in this new position, and that is what I'm going to be sharing with you today, and the framework I have developed to combat imposter syndrome. So let's firstly take a look at some of the lessons learned. Fake it till you make it, they say. I don't believe in that. I actually believe learn it till you make it. And be your authentic self. Be open to admit if you don't know something and continue to develop yourself. Just like a medical profession is so wide. For example, if you have a heart condition, you will go to a cardiologist. If you are going to have a baby, you will go to a gynecologist and not a dermatologist. In the same way, security has so many different domains. You are not going to be experts in all of them. So prioritize which domains do you want to be expert in and which domains are okay for you to be good enough in. Because in security, in order for us to win together, we have to learn how to lean on others who are experts in certain areas and how to let them lean on us where we are experts. Number 2, get this right. As I was telling about the go to jail story, it's not me. It's not just me. I know so many people who wouldn't even take CISO role. They are ready for CISO roles, but they wouldn't take it because there are legal liabilities. But there are other people who wouldn't take promotions because they have this notion, they don't know, they think that the managerial responsibilities which they are trying to get into, they don't know if they will be able to sustain those. And sometimes, let me take an example of security operations. When we put our jobs out there, the job description says 24/7 coverage. The team provides that. If the women are looking at that, sometimes they get discouraged from applying for that job because they think that they have families to take care of, and they just assume that they will be asked to work 24/7 without realizing that we have shift work for that, as well as we have global presence of our team, which can help us deal with that 24/7 coverage. Number 3, share your feelings and failures, as this will make you realize you are not alone. Reach out to those mentors and trusted colleagues who can help you learn and develop new skills, and can also provide you with a valuable sounding board whenever you need to share some ideas, get some feedback, and share your concerns. Let me share a story. Just 2 weeks into my job, when we were taking everybody remote, we got hit with a major security incident. And I had never led an incident response team before then. But I knew someone who was a rock star in that area. And I called them and I told them what I was going through. And they taught me how to crawl, walk, and run. But just imagine if I wouldn't have called him, if I wouldn't have been vulnerable to him, he would have never known what Reet is going through, and I would have never had the opportunity to learn from him. So you don't have to do everything alone. Number 4, whenever we are dealing with others, we are so loving and kind to others. But what about ourselves? We are so mean to ourselves sometimes. So make sure that you are changing that negative narrative in your head. So for example, instead of thinking I'm not good enough, think that I have some room for improvement and I'm working towards my goals, I will get there. Let me share a story. Once a Native American, and you might have heard this from other sources as well. Once a Native American was sharing a story with his grandkids while putting them to bed. He told them about these 2 wolves who live within all of us, a black wolf and a white wolf. The black wolf is filled with fear, anger, and jealousy, and the white wolf is filled with peace, love, and hope. They are constantly fighting. The grandchild asked his grandpa, which wolf wins in the end? And the grandpa replied, it's the wolf who you feed the most. So if you are feeding yourself with positive thoughts, you will get positive boost in return. Number 5, celebrate your successes. People with imposter syndrome feel very uncomfortable when others are celebrating their successes. People with imposter syndrome also don't know actually how to handle compliments. I was working on a proof of concept once with a Nike chief information security officer. He told me, he said, you have come from Southeast Asia with your team, and your team has entered all these risks into the risk register. Now what do we do with this? And I worked really hard, created a 1-pager showing how we are going to be prioritizing the risk to reduce the risk to the maximum level for the organization. And he was amazed by the view which I presented. And he said to me that I have been looking for something like this for many years, and even the big fours couldn't deliver it. But I had done it. I was standing amongst my peers and my team, and I just said to myself, I'm not worthy. And I not even shared that compliment with others. I actually deflected that compliment towards others. It took me a long time to train myself how to take compliments. 2 years ago, somebody called it out to me that, Reet, you need to learn how to take compliments, because I was in a women-led meeting where there were many women leaders, and somebody complimented me on one of the LinkedIn posts which I had made, and I just deflected that back onto her. She called me later, she said, you need to work on it. Now what, the tool which I have set for myself is that whenever I feel uncomfortable, when I'm getting compliments, I just put hand on my heart and tell myself, you are worthy. And I graciously say thank you. And you can try it, it will work. It has worked for me. So let's quickly go through the lessons so that we can take a look at the framework. Lesson number 1, learn it till you make it. No one is a born genius. We must see ourselves as a product in the making. We should continue pushing our own minimum viable product out there in the world while we are working on growing ourselves and into our professions. Number 2, get your facts right before you believe this negative internal noise. Number 3, share your feelings and failures with others who you trust. Number 4, show yourself some love and compassion. Number 5, do not shy away from taking compliments that you truly deserve. We are all in this game called life. Life is a roller coaster ride, which has so many ups and downs. We are all on different journeys and face different challenges, both in our personal and professional lives. For example, some of us sitting in here today, they might be having the best phase of their life with the newfound love, but some of us might be dealing with a pain of a recent loss while working on all the security incidents that we deal with at work. Some of us might be welcoming a new baby, but some of us might be struggling through the navigation that we have to do with the empty nest now that their kids have gone to college, while working on that insider threat that they are dealing with at work. Some of us, we are grateful that we have partners who can share parental duties, but some are doing it all by themselves as they are single parents, while working on that board deck which is due tomorrow. So we juggle through so much in our life with all the personal and professional struggles, especially in the field of information security. It can be really challenging. So I have developed a framework for myself. I'm just sharing a shortened version of that framework with you today. It is a 5-step framework, and it is simple to remember. It's called Be You. Be You, where B stands for breathe. Every time you doubt yourself and you are not feeling confident enough, you should start with a deep breath and visualize yourself releasing the feelings of self-doubt and insecurity with each exhale. Recognize that all the skills, you do have the skills and knowledge to be successful. Whenever you are doing something for the first time, it is natural for that imposter syndrome to knock your door. The first time I was asked to present to the board of directors, I was very nervous. I had never presented to board of directors before. And for first 2 times, whenever I would go and present on a quarterly basis, the board never asked me any questions. And that actually amplified the imposter syndrome. I was like, what, am I doing something wrong? Little did I realize that maybe they are getting that feeling. They are figuring it out that I'm nervous, and they are just letting me to settle into my new role. So I started this breathing technique every time I would go and present to the board, and it helped me because I would also do positive affirmations, and it helped me to calm down my nerves during that time and also be mindful for that very moment to deal with imposter syndrome before I go in and present. Be you, where E stands for embrace. Embrace the presence of imposter syndrome in you and do not fight it. Imposter syndrome, when it kicks in, thank it for visiting you, because whenever imposter syndrome comes, that is our opportunity to learn and grow. When we take a coin, imposter syndrome and learning are two sides of the same coin. Now, if imposter syndrome doesn't knock at my door in a month, I already know that I'm not learning anything. And when I am even interviewing, there are experts who come as interviewees. There are those people who have imposter syndrome. I would prefer to give a job to the people who have imposter syndrome, because I do know that they are going to work hard. They thinking that they have room to grow and learn. Be you, where Y stands for yes. You might be thinking, we learn that don't say yes for everything. Learn to say no too. But learn to say yes strategically for those initiatives which can help you get to your North Star. If something is digressing you from your North Star, say no openly as well. As security practitioners, if we can deal with such a large scale of ever-changing threat landscape that requires constant adaptation and training, we can learn and deal with anything and everything. So if there is something which you have never done before, don't feel scared. Say yes for it if it will help you achieve your goals. Be you, where O stands for ownership. Own your accomplishments and your failures, as failures are great teaching opportunities for us. Celebrate your successes and learnings, no matter how small they are. Recognize that you have worked really hard to get to where you are, and you totally deserve it. Be you, where you stand for uplifting. There will be many people around you. There will be people around you who will purposefully make comments to bring you down for their own personal motives. But there are plenty of people around you who want you to be successful. So look out for those people instead who are going to be uplifting you over those people who are going to be putting fuel to that imposter syndrome fire. So be you, where breathe. Number one is breathe. As you breathe in, bring the positive thoughts, and as you breathe out, take out the negative thoughts. Number two, be you, embrace. Embrace it so that you know that you have to work on it and that you are in the learning mode. Be you, say yes to those opportunities that challenge and expand our skill set and help us reach our full potential. Be you, own your accomplishments. Be you for uplifting. Be with people who uplift you. Build a strong support system and seek out supportive friends who believe in you. Famous people like Alicia Keys, Beyonce, they have been dealing with imposter syndrome a long time, but they still continue making headlines, winning the Grammys and the Oscars. If they can do it, why can't we? Many of us might not come from affluent families. Many of us might have had challenges while getting to where we are today, many of us might not have studied from Ivy League schools. Many of us might not even come from cybersecurity backgrounds. Many of us might be coming from underrepresented minority communities, and many of us may be women, and many of us may be person of color. Many of us may be talking too fast sometimes, and many of us might have an accent like I do. And we are reminded of that every single day, sometimes openly and sometimes in subtle ways. All that is not in our control. But what is in our control? That we can have that perseverance, we can have that determination, and we can have the belief that we can do it. Because if we believe in ourselves, we can achieve anything and everything. Thank you.